Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever started something with fire in your soul, only to watch that fire die out 2 weeks later? Maybe it was a workout routine, a business idea, a promise to yourself to wake up early. You had the intention, you had the goal, but somewhere along the way, life happened. Distractions, doubt, fatigue, and that promise, it faded. You didn't fail because you lacked talent, intelligence, or resources. You failed because you lacked consistency. And today we're going to change that. Purpose gets us started. It's the spark that lights the fire. It's the feeling that rises up in our chest when we imagine something bigger than ourselves, something that matters. When we uncover that why, we feel unstoppable. For a moment, everything aligns. Our vision is clear. Our energy is unmatched. On day one, we're invincible. But the truth is, day one is easy. Everyone is inspired on day one. Everyone is passionate at the beginning. Starting something new, whether it's a business, a relationship, a lifestyle change, it feels good. It feels exciting. There's a freshness to it. The possibilities seem endless. The adrenaline rush of beginning something aligned with your purpose is powerful. But that's not the hard part. The hard part is day 2, day 10, day 100, when the novelty wears off, when the road gets bumpy, when the applause dies down, the obstacles show up, and no one is watching. That's when you realize something critical. Purpose might be the engine, but consistency is the fuel. Without consistency, purpose stalls. It's like having a powerful car with no gas. It looks impressive, but it goes nowhere. Let me tell you a story you've probably heard before, but maybe not through this lens. When J.K. Rowling first sat down to write Harry Potter, she wasn't famous. She wasn't wealthy. She wasn't celebrated. She was a single mother living on welfare, writing in cafes while her baby daughter slept beside her. She had nothing except a purpose, a deep, burning belief that this story mattered, that these characters deserved to live in the world, that this magic she carried inside her had to be shared. That purpose gave her the courage to begin. But purpose alone didn't get the books written. It didn't get the drafts edited. It didn't keep her going when the rejections started piling up. Because that's the part of the story many people gloss over. She was rejected by 12 different publishers. 12 people told her it wasn't good enough. 12 doors slammed in her face. Now pause for a moment and think about how that feels. You put your heart into something. You stay up late. You pour every ounce of your imagination and effort into a project. And then you hear over and over again, no, not good enough, not interested. Most people give up after the first rejection. Some make it to the second or third. Very few make it to 12. Why didn't she quit? Because her purpose was the engine. But she forced herself to stay consistent, to keep writing, to keep refining, to keep sending out those manuscripts, even when the silence was deafening, even when the self-doubt crept in, even when the world told her in every way possible, this will never work. She didn't rely on bursts of inspiration. She didn't wait till she felt like it. She made herself show up. And that's the difference. That's the gap between potential and reality. That gap is bridged by consistency. So many people have great ideas. So many people have a strong sense of purpose, but they never build the habit of consistency. And so those ideas never see the light of day. The engine is there. The vision is real, but there's no fuel. We look at successful people and we assume they're different, that they're lucky, or more gifted, or born with some rare trait the rest of us don't have. But the truth is usually far less glamorous. What separates the people who make it from the people who don't is that they kept showing up, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. That's the part no one likes to talk about. We glorify the outcome but ignore the grind. We celebrate the books, the companies, the accolades, but we skip over the lonely mornings, the uncertain nights, the 1,000 little choices to keep going when quitting would have been easy. Think about someone in your life who you deeply admire, not just for their success but for their character. It's not just what they've achieved that inspires you. It's how they achieved it. It's their consistency, their ability to be the same person on good days and bad ones, to show up with integrity, with passion, with presence, over and over again. That's the person we trust. That's the person we look up to. Because purpose without consistency is a wish, but purpose with consistency, that's unstoppable. And this isn't just about work or creative pursuits. This applies to every area of life. Relationships thrive not because of grand gestures, but because of consistent presence. Health isn't built on one intense workout. It's the result of small, repeated decisions. Character isn't proven in one moment. It's revealed in a lifetime of choices. Consistency isn't glamorous. It's not loud. It's often invisible. But it's everything. It's saying yes to your purpose long after the emotion that got you started has faded. It's choosing to honor the commitment you made to yourself, even when no one is clapping, even when no one noticed. It's the quiet power of following through, again, and again, and again. Every time you show up when it's hard, you build something, not just in the world, but within yourself. You build belief, you build resilience, you build a sense of trust in your own identity, and that trust compounds over time. It creates momentum. It turns discipline into identity, because eventually consistency becomes who you are, not just something you do. That's the moment when that's when your purpose becomes not just something you chase, but something you embody, and the world can feel that. People are drawn to consistency. They may admire talent, but they follow those they can count on. So whatever your purpose is, whatever dream, mission, or calling lives inside of you, understand this: the engine may get you going, but it's the fuel that gets you there. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait for the right mood. Don't wait for applause. Just show up, fuel the engine, and trust that consistency, over time, will turn purpose into reality. We often hear people say, "I'm just not a disciplined person," as if discipline is a gift given to a select few, like it's a trait embedded in someone's DNA, handed out at birth. And if you didn't get it, too bad, you're out of luck. But that's a myth. Discipline is not something we are born with. It's not an inherited trait, not some mystical quality only high achievers possess. Discipline is a choice. It's a decision. And the most powerful part of that truth is this: it means every one of us can choose it. Every single day, we tend to look at people we admire, high performers, athletes, creators, business leaders, and we assume they must be different. They must be wired for discipline. We imagine that waking up at 4 a.m. comes easy for them, that they love eating clean, love grinding through hours of work, love the structure. But that assumption blinds us to the truth. Most of them don't love it. What they love is what it creates. Take Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, one of the most well-known entertainers on the planet, a man with a schedule so intense that most of us would crumble under it. But do you know what he does every day? He trains at 4 a.m. in the dark, before the rest of the world even starts to not because he enjoys the sound of his alarm clock, not because there's some magical satisfaction in being tired while everyone else is asleep, but because he made a promise to himself. He chose discipline. He chooses it every single morning. He once said that he's not waking up that early for applause. He's not training to impress anyone. He's doing it because it grounds him. It reminds him of who he is and who he's becoming. That's what discipline does. It reconnects you with your identity. It's not about being better than anyone else. It's about being better than the excuses you made yesterday. Discipline is saying yes to your future more often than you say yes to your feelings. That might be the most important sentence you hear today. Because your feelings, they're real, but they're also temporary. They change with the weather. They fluctuate based on how much sleep you got, what someone said to you, or even the kind of food you ate. Feelings are loud in the moment, but they fade quickly. And if we base our actions on them, we live a life of inconsistency, of stops and starts, of regret. But your future, that's something worth choosing over and over again. Your future self is counting on you to push through when it's inconvenient, to show up when it's uncomfortable, to stay focused when it's easier to scroll or sleep or coast. That's what discipline gives you, the power to align with the version of yourself you're building, not the version that's reacting to what feels good in the moment. Think of a person training for a marathon. In the first few weeks, it's exciting. They buy new shoes, create a playlist, map out routes. But after a while, the weather gets bad, muscles ache, motivation dips, and on those mornings when it's cold and raining, and the bed feels like the safest place on earth, they face a choice. Do I listen to how I feel, or do I honor what I said I'd do? That choice defines them, not just as a runner, but as a person. It's the same in everything: in parenting, in building a business, in creating art, in leading teams, in growing personally. Discipline is not one big decision. It's hundreds of small ones made over time. The choice to start, the choice to keep going, the choice to finish, even when it's hard. The amazing thing is, the more often you choose discipline, the stronger it gets. It compounds. It becomes less about willpower and more about identity. You stop having to wrestle with the question, should I, and start saying, this is what I do. It's no longer something you force. It becomes part of who you are. And yet there's something important to understand. Discipline doesn't guarantee ease. It doesn't make everything feel good. In fact, some of the most disciplined people still wrestle with procrastination, laziness, temptation. The difference is they just don't let those feelings decide for them. There's a beautiful power in being able to separate what you feel from what you choose. It means you are not at the mercy of mood swings or motivation levels. You can feel tired and still go to the gym. You can feel uninspired and still sit down to rest. You can feel afraid and still take the next step. That's the mark of discipline. Action in spite of feeling. It's why discipline builds legacy. Because legacy isn't created in bursts of passion. Legacy is built in the quiet, unseen moments where you decide to stay committed. When no one is watching, when no one is cheering, when there's no reward yet in sight. That's when legacies are born. We love stories of overnight success, but they are never true. Success is the product of consistent, disciplined decisions repeated over time. And when someone finally breaks through, when they finally reach the mountaintop, we say they were lucky. But if you look closer, you'll see the early mornings, the late nights, the hundreds of times they didn't want to but did it anyway. There's something deeply human about the struggle for discipline. We all know what it feels like to want something badly, but fall short of doing what's required. And that's okay. Discipline doesn't mean perfection. It means persistence. You fall, you get back up. You miss a day, you reset. You slip, you correct. Every time you get back on track, you build strength. And here's what happens when you do that enough times. You begin to trust yourself. You stop relying on external motivation. You stop needing validation because you've proven to yourself that you're capable, that you can follow through, that when things get hard, you don't run, you rise. That kind of self-trust changes everything. It gives you the courage to take risks, the stamina to endure setbacks, the clarity to keep going when others quit, and the integrity to live a life that matches your values, not your whims. So when you hear yourself saying, I'm just not a disciplined person, remember, discipline isn't something you are, it's something you choose. And you don't have to get it right every time. You just have to keep choosing day after day, moment by moment. Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, we live in a world obsessed with big wins. The overnight success, the viral moment, the major breakthrough. We celebrate the athlete who shatters a world record, the entrepreneur who lands $1 million deal, the artist whose work goes viral. And while those moments are certainly impressive, we often forget what came before them, the quiet repetition, the tiny, consistent actions that no one saw. Because here's the truth we tend to overlook: small things become big things. Most people don't fail because they don't dream big enough. They fail because they don't believe small steps matter. We convince ourselves that if we're not making massive progress every day, we're not making any progress at all. But growth isn't a leap, it's a crawl. It's the accumulation of micro decisions made when no one is watching. That's what shapes your future. There's a study referenced by James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, that reveals something remarkable. If you improve by just 1% every day for a year, you won't be just a little better. You'll be 37 times better by the end of that year. Let that sink in. 37 times better. Not from a radical reinvention, not from quitting your job or moving across the world or turning your life upside down, but from doing a little bit better each day. It sounds almost too simple, but that's the power of compounding. It doesn't look impressive on day 1. In fact, it doesn't look impressive on day 2 or day 10. But give it time, stay with it. What starts as a drip becomes a stream, then a flow, then a current strong enough to change the direction of your life. Let's say you want to read more books. You don't need to devour a novel in one sitting. Read 10 pages a day, 10 pages. That's it. It doesn't feel like much, does it? But in a month, you'll have read 300 pages. That's 1 book. In a year, 12 books. That's 12 more than most people ever read. And more importantly, it's 12 different ways your thinking will evolve. Your imagination will stretch. Your perspective will grow. Not because you made a dramatic change, but because you stuck to a small one. Or maybe you want to you don't need to start with 2 hours in the gym or an intense meal plan. Start with 10 push-ups. Just 10. It'll take less than a minute. But here's what happens when you do it every day. The first week it's 10 push-ups. By the 3rd week it's 20. Then soon the habit is more powerful than the action itself. You don't have to force yourself anymore. It becomes who you are. That's the key. It's not about the act. It's about the habit. The most successful people don't wait for motivation to show up. They design lives where the small steps are automatic, where their progress isn't fueled by passion alone, but by patterns that reinforce growth. The magic of small steps is that they bypass your inner resistance. When something feels too big, we put it off, we delay, we procrastinate. We say, I'll start on Monday. But a small step, that's manageable. That's doable right now. And once you start, the momentum builds. That one step leads to the next. And the next action creates action. You might remember the story of a young girl named Kate. She wanted to help homeless people in her city, but she was just 10 years old. What could she possibly do? Instead of giving up, she started packing small care bags, snacks, hygiene products, a note of encouragement, and handing them out one at a time. One bag turned into 10, 10 into 100. Soon she had rallied a community of volunteers, raised thousands of dollars, and started a nonprofit. She didn't wait for a big platform or a large donation. She just did what she could consistently. And small became big. In contrast, think about the countless New Year's resolutions that fall apart by February. Why? Because we aim too high, too fast. We set giant goals with no system behind them. We rely on willpower instead of routine. We try to run marathons before we've learned how to walk a mile. And when the motivation wears off, so does the commitment. But when we anchor our growth in small daily actions, we create something far more powerful than a flash of motivation. We build identity. We begin to see ourselves different. You're not just someone who wants to write. You're someone who writes every day. You're not just trying to eat healthier. You're someone who makes better food choices. That shift in identity changes everything. It moves you from trying to being, from effort to embodiment. And this applies to relationships too. Strong relationships aren't built on grand romantic gestures. They're built on the little things, the daily check-in, the unexpected compliment, the act of listening without distraction. It's the consistent expression of care, not the occasional burst of attention, that builds trust, that builds love. In business, the same principle applies. A thriving company doesn't get that way overnight. It grows because someone took the time to follow up with customers, because someone kept tweaking the product, because someone kept showing up even when sales were slow. One email, one phone call, one meeting, repeated over time. That's what builds something worth keeping. It's easy to underestimate these little actions. They're not flashy, they don't get applause. But over time, they shape your future more profoundly than any single burst of effort ever could. Because when you zoom out and look back, it's not the big moments that made the biggest difference. It's the daily ones. So whatever you're working on, ask yourself, what's the smallest step I can take today that moves me forward? Not the most impressive one, not the most challenging, just the smallest. Then do it again tomorrow, and the day after that. That's how change happens. Quietly, steadily, unshakably. There's a Japanese concept called Kaizen. It means continuous improvement through small, incremental changes. It's how Toyota became one of the most efficient and innovative companies in the world. Not by overhauling everything, but by constantly asking, how can we make this just a little bit better? That mindset creates excellence. Not instantly, but inevitably. The same is true for you. You don't have to be perfect today. You just have to be better than yesterday. Even if it's only by 1%. Because 1% better, every day, creates a life that looks nothing like the one you started with. One that's shaped not by leaps, but by footsteps. And that kind of progress, that's not just sustainable. It's unstoppable. Trust is everything. It's the foundation of every meaningful relationship, every successful team, and every great organization. We say we trust people, but in reality, we trust their actions. We trust what they do, day in and day out. Think about it for a moment. You've had friends, colleagues, or even leaders in your life who seemed full of potential, who were charismatic and inspiring in short bursts. But their inconsistency, that's what made you doubt them. That's what made you hesitate. Imagine a leader who shows up excited one day, full of energy, sharing bold plans and optimistic visions for the future. They're on fire. Everyone feels the energy, the passion. Then the next day, that same leader is distant, distracted, or even disengaged. Maybe they're late to the meeting, or they don't follow through on their commitments. How do you follow that? How do you rely on that? You can't. You can't trust someone who is unpredictable. And in the long term, you can't build anything of value on a foundation of uncertainty. The same goes for your own life. If you can't count on yourself, how can you expect others to? It's easy to make promises to others, to say, I'll do this, I'll be there, I'll follow through. But the real test is whether you can trust yourself to keep those promises. Because it's one thing to say you're going to do something. It's another thing entirely to consistently do it. Even when it's hard, even when no one is watching. That's what builds your self-respect. That's what strengthens your sense of integrity. Think about the times in your life when you felt proud of yourself. Chances are, those moments weren't when you achieved something big in one go. It wasn't the time you launched the successful project, or won the competition, or made the big sale. It was probably the time you stayed up late to finish what you started, even when you were tired. Or the time you stuck to a commitment you made to yourself, even when it wasn't easy. Or the time you kept showing up day after day, when you didn't feel like. That's when you build trust with yourself. That's when you prove to yourself that you are someone worth counting on. It's not just about the occasional act of heroism, or the rare burst of brilliance. It's about what you do consistently. Because when you can rely on yourself, others can rely on you. That's how you build trust, not just with the world, but with your own soul. Consider the story of a teacher who shows up every day with a commitment to their student. Maybe they're not always the loudest or the most exciting person in the room. Maybe they don't have a flashy personality or a unique teaching method that gets attention, but they're there every day. They show up, they care, they put in the effort. Over time, that teacher earns the trust of their students, not because of one grand gesture, but because they consistently show up, ready to give their best. And in return, those students trust them. They trust that this teacher will be there for them when they need help. They trust that the teacher will keep pushing them to be their best. They trust because they've seen the consistency. On the flip side, think about a boss who promises big changes, who speaks about creating a better work culture, but never follows through. They're enthusiastic one day, but then they're too busy the next. They promise recognition, but rarely deliver. Over time, the team stops believing. They stop trusting. And when trust breaks down, so does everything else. People stop working for you. They stop working with you. They stop believing in the vision. Trust isn't a one-time event. It's built through the small actions we take over time. It's the little things, the things that no one notices at first, that add up and make the biggest impact. It's the fact that you show up every day with integrity, that you keep your word, even when it's hard, that you do the work, even when no one's looking. Those are the things that create trust. And trust isn't just about what you do with others. It's about what you do for yourself. When you make a commitment to improve, to grow, to do something consistently, and you follow through, you build trust with yourself. You prove to yourself that you're capable, that you're reliable. And when you can trust yourself, when you know you will follow through on what you say you're going to do, it changes everything. Think of the person who makes a resolution to get fit and starts going to the gym. They might not see immediate results, but every time they show up, they're building trust with themselves. They're proving that they're someone who honors their commitments. They're proving that they have the discipline to stick with. And over time, that consistency pays off, not just in physical changes, but in their own self-confidence. This concept is crucial in leadership. True leaders understand that their influence isn't built on occasional bursts of charisma or flashes of brilliance. Their influence is built on their ability to show up consistently, day after day, to lead by example, to follow through on promises, even when it's difficult, even when they're tired, even when there's no one around to see it. When you're consistent, people know what to expect from you. They know you will be there when you say you will. They know you'll do what you said you'd do. And they know they can count on you, even when things get tough. That's how trust is built. It's not built on one big moment. It's built on the steady, consistent actions that prove you are someone worth following. And when people trust you, they'll follow you, they'll work harder for you, they'll believe in the mission. Because they know without a doubt that you will show up and do the work every single day. In the end, consistency isn't just about building trust with others. It's about building trust with yourself. When you show up, when you put in the effort, when you do what you said you'd do, even when it's tough, you build something more valuable than any skill or qualification. You build a reputation of trust. And that is the most valuable asset you can ever have. Motivation is an elusive thing. Some days you wake up feeling ready to take on the world. The fire is there. You feel like you could conquer mountains. You're ready to write that book, launch that business, get in shape, or do whatever it is you've set your mind to. But let's be honest, those days are rare. More often than not, motivation is nowhere to be found. Some mornings you feel exhausted, uninspired, and unsure if you even have it in you to make it through the day. And that's okay. That's the human experience. It's part of the journey. The problem, however, is when we rely on motivation to get us through. If we wait for the right mood, for the right burst of inspiration, we'll be waiting a long time. Motivation comes and goes like a breeze. Sometimes it's strong, pushing us forward, and sometimes it's barely a whisper. The truth is, motivation is a fickle thing. It's a mood. It changes. It can be influenced by a million different factors: how much sleep you got, the weather, the people around you, how well your last project went. Motivation is unreliable. But there's something else we can rely on. Commitment. Commitment isn't like motivation. It doesn't ebb and flow. It doesn't change with the weather. Commitment is a promise you make to yourself and your future. It's a contract you sign, and it doesn't matter how you feel in the moment, you honor that commitment anyway. It's a decision you make every day to show up, to put in the work, and to keep moving forward, regardless of how inspired you feel. Olympic athletes are a perfect example of this. They don't wake up every day feeling motivated to train. They don't always feel like running mile after mile or lifting weights until their muscles ache. The truth is, many days they feel tired. They feel like quitting. They feel like taking a break. But they don't. Because they're not training because they're motivated. They're training because they're committed. They've made a promise to themselves that they will give everything they have, no matter how hard it gets, because they are committed to reaching their goal. It's the same in every area of life. The people who succeed, who accomplish extraordinary things, aren't the ones who feel amazing all the time. They're not the ones who always have boundless energy or who are constantly inspired. They're the ones who show up anywhere. They're the ones who put in the work even when they don't feel like it. They're the ones who continue to push forward when everything inside them wants to stop. And that's the difference between success and failure. The ability to keep going when you don't feel like it. Think about the moments when you've truly grown. When have you learned the most about yourself? When have you achieved something significant? More often than not, it wasn't because everything was easy. It wasn't because you felt great or had all the answers. It was because you were committed to your goal, even when things got hard. It was because you decided that no matter how difficult it got, you were going to keep going. Commitment doesn't just show up when things are easy. Commitment is what gets you through the hard times. It's what keeps you going when the world feels like it's pushing against you. It's what allows you to get back up after a failure and try again. It's what helps you push through the obstacles and keep moving forward when others are giving up. Take a look at some of the most successful people in the world. They didn't get there because they were always motivated. They got there because they were committed. They faced challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt, just like everyone else. But they didn't give up. They kept going. They made a decision that their dreams and goals were more important than how they felt in the moment. They stayed committed even when motivation was nowhere to be found. There's a story of Thomas Edison, one of the greatest inventors of all time, who faced countless failures before he finally succeeded in inventing the light bulb. He didn't stop after the first failure, the 10th, or even the 100th. He kept going. And when he was asked about his many unsuccessful attempts, he famously replied, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Edison wasn't motivated by success. He wasn't motivated by the possibility of fame or fortune. He was committed to his vision. He had a deep, unwavering commitment to making his dream a reality, and that commitment allowed him to keep going when most people would have given up. It's the same with any goal or dream you have. The path is not always clear. There will be days when you feel like you've hit a wall, when the obstacles seem insurmountable. But in those moments, motivation won't be enough. Motivation will let you down. But if you're committed, you'll find a way to push through it. If you're committed, you'll keep moving forward even when the odds are against you. Consider the story of an athlete training for a marathon. When they first start, the excitement is there. The motivation is high. They imagine crossing the finish line, feeling the sense of accomplishment. But as the training goes on, the initial excitement fades. The early mornings get harder. The runs get longer. The body starts to ache. The motivation starts to wane. But the athlete doesn't quit. Why? Because they are committed. They have made a promise to themselves that they will complete this marathon. They've signed a contract with their future, and that contract doesn't care whether they feel motivated or not. It only cares about the commitment they've made, and that commitment carries them through the toughest days. The same can be said about any area of your life. Whether you're building a business, pursuing a degree, or working on self-improvement, there will be times when motivation is nowhere to be found. There will be days when you feel tired, uninspired, or defeated. But those are the days that matter the most. Those are the days when your commitment is tested. And it's in those moments that you have to show up, even when you don't feel like it. It's in those moments that you have to remember why you started and honor the promise you made to yourself. Success isn't about always feeling motivated. It's about showing up, day after day, no matter how you feel. It's about being committed to your goals, to your future, and to the person you're becoming. The people who succeed aren't the ones who always feel great. They're the ones who keep going when they don't feel like it. And if you can learn to be committed, not just motivated, you will find yourself achieving things you never thought possible. There's something deeply human about our instinct to want to be perfect. We set out with grand ambitions, whether it's to get in shape, learn a new skill, or build something we're proud of. The idea of perfecting a habit, achieving something flawless feels like the ultimate measure of success. But here's the harsh truth. Perfection is a myth. And if we allow ourselves to fall into the trap of striving for perfection, we set ourselves up for disappointment, frustration, and eventually, giving up. We've all been there. You start strong, filled with enthusiasm. You commit to going to the gym every day, eating healthier, writing in your journal, or sticking to that new routine. But life has a way of throwing curveball. Maybe you miss a workout, skip a meal you promised yourself you'd avoid, or forget to follow through on the small tasks that you knew were important. The moment this happens, what do most of us do? We give up. We tell ourselves that we've failed, that we can't do it, that there's no point in trying anymore. And once we give up, it becomes even easier to quit again, and then again until the cycle is broken. But here's the problem with that way of thinking. Consistency isn't about never slipping up. It isn't about avoiding failure entirely. It's about resilience. It's about getting back up the moment you fall. The truth is, perfection will never be attainable. And that's okay. The goal isn't to be flawless. The goal is to keep going, no matter what. Every time you get back up after a mistake, after a slip-up, you build strength. You build resilience. You build the ability to overcome failure and keep moving forward. That's what consistency really is. Take a moment to reflect on how many times you've tried something new in your life and failed. How many times have you stumbled or fallen short of your expectations? Whether it was a business venture, a personal goal, or something that meant a lot to you, you've probably faced failure more times than you can count. But the real question is, how many times did you get up after falling? How many times did you dust yourself off and continue, even when it felt like the world was against you? That's where consistency lives, not in the flawless execution, but in the ability to keep going when it gets hard. There's a story about Michael Jordan, often considered one of the greatest basketball players of all time. We know the iconic moments, the championships, the buzzer beaters, the impossible but what we often overlook are the failures, the countless missed shots, and the setbacks he experienced along the way. Jordan famously said, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and yet despite all of these failures, he didn't give up. He didn't let one missed shot, one lost game, or one failure define him. He kept showing up. He kept shooting. And through that consistency, he became a legend. It's the same with us. In our own lives, we will inevitably face failure. We will make mistakes, miss opportunities, and slip up along the way. But the key isn't to avoid those mistakes. It's to not let them stop us from continuing. It's about showing up, day after day, even when things don't go as planned. When we fail, we have a choice. We can give up, or we can get back up and keep going. It's the latter that builds the life we want. It's the latter that brings us closer to our goal. I'm sure you've heard the saying, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. This couldn't be truer. We look at successful people and we often think they achieved greatness without ever falling. We imagine their paths were smooth, their progress linear, but that's not how it works. Success is built on failure, and failure is only permanent if you stop. If you choose to quit after one failure, you've lost. But if you choose to get back up, if you choose to continue even when it's tough, that's where the magic happens. Look at any entrepreneur who's made a lasting impact. Steve Jobs was fired from the very company he founded. Walt Disney was told he lacked creativity. Oprah Winfrey was demoted from her first job as a television reporter. These people didn't achieve greatness because they were perfect. They achieved greatness because they were resilient. They got back up after every setback, every failure, every moment of doubt. And they kept going. They weren't afraid of slipping up because they knew that consistency wasn't about perfection. It was about perseverance. It was about pushing through when others would have quit. The same principle applies to every area of life, whether it's fitness, career, relationships, or personal development. Consistency is not about always being perfect. It's about showing up, day after day, and doing the work, even when it's hard. It's about choosing to keep going, even when the road is tough. It's about making the decision, every single day, to get back up when you fall. It's important to understand that setbacks don't mean you failed. Missing a day at the gym, eating a slice of cake when you said you wouldn't, or making a mistake at work. These are just part of the process. They don't define you. What defines you is how you respond to those setbacks. Do you let them stop you? Or do you use them as fuel to keep moving forward? Think about the journey of someone trying to build a healthier lifestyle. They may eat well and exercise consistently, but sometimes life gets in the way. Maybe they get busy, and miss a workout. Maybe they eat something they shouldn't. But that doesn't mean all their progress is lost. It doesn't mean they should give up. It means they need to recognize that setbacks are part of the process. The key is not to let those setbacks define you or stop you from continuing. You simply get back on track the next day. Consistency isn't about having a perfect record. It's about showing up, making progress, and getting back up when you fall. It's about making a decision, over and over again, that you won't quit, no matter what. And that's where true growth happens. Success isn't a straight line. It's a series of steps, some forward, some backward, but always moving in the direction of your goals. So the next time you slip up or fall short, don't let it discourage you. Don't let it make you feel like you've failed. Instead, recognize it for what it is. A small setback on the path to greatness, and then get back up, keep going, keep moving forward. Because consistency isn't about being flawless. It's about progress. It's about never quitting. And that above all else is what leads to. So here's my challenge to you. Pick one thing today, just one, and force yourself to show up for it every day for the next 30 days. No excuses, no negotiating with your emotions. Just honor the promise. Because the future doesn't belong to the talented. It belongs to the consistent. And if you can force yourself to be consistent, you can force the world to pay attention.